My mama been told me don't get no poor performance. And whatever you gon' do, just do it. Never thought about doing music.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Process Sports. I got a very special guest for us today. His name is Emerson Murray. For those of you guys that don't know, he's a local Vancouver Hoops kind of legend. He played at St. George's for high school, and then he went to the NCAA, had spent time in Cal and Seattle U, and then played overseas. And right now he's running Klinik, his own basketball academy. So I want to thank you, Emerson, for coming on. I really do appreciate it. All right. First question is, I just want to know how you're doing during this whole COVID situation. How are you staying sane and stuff like that?
Oh, man. I play a lot of 2K and then just try and work out as much as possible. So
that's dope.
I want to come out of this stronger than when I went in. So I know it's tough, though, being a coach and having a lot of kids tell me that they, can't shoot or whatever if they don't have a hoop at their house. So I'm glad I'm older now than me still trying to play professional and being stuck in this situation.
Yeah, we were just talking about it too. It was crazy. Like even some NBA players don't have like hoops and stuff like that, and it's crazy, right?
Absolutely. Well, all the access is different too. Like obviously before the situation, you could get in the gym whenever you wanted.
Exactly.
Especially for those guys, but now it's like we're not even allowed to leave houses unless we're getting necessities. So
exactly,
it's a crazy situation, man.
It is definitely crazy. Are you for 2K? Are you more of a my part guy, my career guy? What do you rock with on 2K?
I play the real game.
Just
I play 5-on-5. I don't have no my player or anything like that.
Okay. So you just keep it old school like that. You don't do the my part thing like that. Okay, much respect to that. That's respect. Okay, so I'm just gonna let's get back into the history of your history with basketball. So, what was the first your first basketball memory, and what really drew you to the sport of basketball, and what made you fall in love with it?
First basketball memory, I got a little Tykes hoop for my second birthday.
Okay, one like the little indoor ones.
Yeah, like the super little ones with a small little Nerf ball that you could lower and higher. And my dad would come home from work, and we'd play 21 on it, for hours. And I had an older brother and older sister, so I always watched them play and stuff. So it was an instant love. I don't even remember when I was like, oh, I love this.
So it's kind of like a love at first sight type of thing. When you knew that was your sport to go
for sure.
Staking with that, when did you realize you wanted to make a career out of basketball and really pursue it as a career and have something for the rest of your life?
I'd probably say 4 years old. I always wanted to play in the NBA and get a scholarship, and that was my dream for sure, at least play professional. So
yeah,
I knew it was going to be my career no matter what. I got a degree and all that,
but you knew that's what you wanted to do. Basketball, something you want to have a part of your life forever,
sure.
Right? That's
for sure.
At a young age, that's really dope, man. You're following your dreams and stuff like that. That's crazy.
But it's crazy once you get out of the school and stuff, and you realize you've been doing something for 22 years of your life. It's hard to just be like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. Right? Yeah,
it's totally. But that's a dope thing, man. If you could do something that you love to do forever, why not stick with it, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So going back to your family and stuff like that. So how big of a role did your family and your support group play for you while you were coming up through high school, college, even elementary school and stuff like that? Big role did they play?
Oh, they played everything. I had an older brother that was 4 years older, and then my sister was 8 years older, and she got a scholarship to Hawaii on a track scholarship. My brother is one of the best long jumpers in Canada from 16 years old. So it was one of those things where I always had somebody to compete against, number one, where I was never the most athletic or the best player in the house. Mm-hmm. So that kept me grounded. And then my dad was the Olympic coach for the Canadian track team from 84 to the 96 Olympics. So it was kind of, I guess the athletic part of things always played a part. There was no dream or anything that was too small,
And so it looks like track was a big part of your family. How did you fare in track?
I was all right, man.
It wasn't really your thing?
I did it seriously till 6th or 7th grade, and then after that I was I really want to play basketball. Obviously, AAU started getting bigger here in Canada.
Yeah, definitely.
So I finally was able to play on an AAU team in 10th grade, and then after that I was like, okay, I really need to take this serious with scholarship offers and all that.
And do you think now? Continue on the AAU talk. Do you think now AAU basketball is kind of expanding in Canada now? Because I know it's huge in the States and stuff
for sure.
that. And
it's been big in Toronto for sure, but in terms of out here, it's crazy. Kids are going to 6 or 7 tournaments in the States now. When I played, we went to Las Vegas and Seattle, and that was
right.
That was it. We got local tournaments, but in terms of exposure, I mean,
well, yeah. Because I think like a lot of kids now don't know that you can play basketball year round, right? Like I know for me myself, right? Like I always thought you just play basketball with your friends in the summertime and then during like school year, right? Whether that's in the park, through high school team, whatever, right? But now, like you have these club teams and stuff like that. You compete with the highest talent, not only here in BC, but high talent across, like you said, Seattle, Vegas, or whatever, right? Which is a great way to improve talent, right? Because we see the talent explosion in Toronto, which is crazy, right?
Absolutely. Like even for us though, it's like when I was coming up, I was gonna play either for a team in Seattle or play for a summer team in Toronto because we didn't have the so-called resume that we do now. Now there's AAU programs out there that are actually competing with teams in the States. Like when we used to go to the States, we get punked all the time. Like, and not everybody on the team wanted to play after high school either. So it was like, only a couple of us that were truly serious about it. Like it wasn't just fun for us. So now the programs are year long. Kids are held accountable. Like it's a different culture here.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's different. But now you can definitely see how the evolution of basketball in Canada, especially, is growing and growing. It's like things like the Raptors winning the title, or
that's crazy,
or like new NBA players like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jamal Murray, all these guys, right? It's more and more like motivation I find for kids.
Generation, man.
You can now kids from Canada can see a path to the NBA where before you couldn't have, right? Or even to college, right?
Big time.
Yeah. So going back to high school, so you went to high school at St. George's in Vancouver, right? Yeah. So what was it like playing there? And I guess there's a prep school, right? So it's a little bit.
That's private school.
School, yeah. So what was that kind of like? And I also was reading that you hit the buzzer beater in the provincial championships in, I think, 2009.
Yeah.
What was that experience, like hitting a buzzer beater to win a provincial championship? Like,
it was cool, man. I mean, playing at St. George's was really, it's different than you'd think. Everybody graduates there. Everybody is there for school. Mm-hmm. Like kids are extremely smart there. Kids are so talented in art and all these other things. So it's like, it's kind of a higher standard to make you realize you have to do better in the classroom or athletically. But I mean, it was definitely hard for me too. Dumping.
Yeah.
In the morning and driving at night, my day would start at 5. And I mean, if there was any type of practice, I'm getting home at 8:30, and then you do it all again 5 days a week. So if there's games, you're not getting home till 10:30 if your game's at 7:30. So it was an awesome experience, and it helped me to get to college in terms of the discipline and the timing of stuff and just the organization of it. But it was awesome. Provincials though, that was one of the best experiences, man, getting to be able to win a championship, but being able to kind of go to the championships and then have it against your rivalry. So that was awesome, man. It was the last year that Mr. Lee coached that year, so it was cool to kind of send him off with the title.
I mean, I think it's every basketball player's dream to hit like a game-winning shot, buzzer beater shot to win a title, whether it's a championship, state title, provincial title, whatever it is.
It was cool, man. I sprained my ankle pretty good the night before, so I was scared I wasn't going to play that day. I did not play good. I hit a shot at the end, but it was my worst game by far.
We'll leave that part out of it, though. You hit the game winner. That's all.
It's all good, man. It was fun. That's all
everybody's going to remember, right?
Yeah, so it was one of those things where it was like, man, that was like the one game I was nervous for.
Yeah.
I sprained my ankle, and then I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to play. And then they were chanting some good rude stuff in the warm-ups, and I was like, okay, I think I got it, man.
You got it. Once you got in that zone, you got it, right?
Yeah.
Going back to your family and stuff like that, like who were some of your role models or like NBA players that you kind of modeled your game after or stuff like that?
I mean, for me, like I said, everybody in my family was kind of athletic. Mm-hmm. So I would say probably my brother was a role model. He was always the most athletic guy. Same with my sister. She was the most athletic girl I knew. So it was cool, man. I had a lot of people that were in positions that were doing great stuff. Like my godfather lived with us, and he ran the first leg of the gold medal team in the Olympics for the relay. So it was like there was a lot of people in my life that were at the pinnacle of their sport. So as far as basketball, it's like I knew I wanted to hopefully try and reach for that. In terms of basketball players, though, I fell in love like watching basketball when I seen Kobe. Kobe was by far my favorite player. I got to watch a game in Vancouver. I think it was his rookie season. He was like shooting elbow fadeaway jumpers with no basketball.
Right.
Like no basketball, like 3 hours before game time, and he didn't even play a lot of minutes that game. He was a rookie.
Yeah, when he was playing,
Harris wasn't messing with him, and like it was incredible. I was like, man, I didn't understand what work or hard work was at that time. It was like I think 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So seeing that was like, yeah, he was my favorite player, and then he started to be this all-star and this like
iconic player,
crazy, this crazy icon. It was like, yeah, he's my favorite player, and he had a lot of hardships with like, you know, his court cases and all this stuff, and it was like it was cool to be a fan of somebody that not everybody was a fan of, you know.
Right,
so
polarized.
I loved that part of it. That was like definitely one of the biggest. That was my role model. That was a person I wanted to meet and all that stuff, and then like other players I love was like Allen Iverson and stuff like that. And I was a Lakers fan, so all the Lakers.
Is there a player now like who plays right now that you love? Like
I love Russell Westbrook's game.
Same. I love his competitiveness. I love his just go at 100,000 miles per hour, right?
But I mean, like in terms of just game too, that I think is amazing is Luka Doncic.
Yeah, definitely. Luka Doncic, like he's not the fastest guy out there, and it looks like he's going super slow, but the way he can move and has handles and gets position,
man,
and stuff
he's
like
smart and he's so skilled. It's like, you know, he'll be good forever. It's not for him. He's only going to get better, but he'll be good forever. So
most definitely,
yeah, man. I love Westbrook's game though nowadays, and a lot of people hate his game. So I'm more so just a fan of the game though, because a lot of these guys are just a year older than me or 2 years older than me, and I had the chance to play against some of the guys. So it's like it's less of a fan or less of a support system, like, you know, a Kobe fanatic, and more of like a respect, appreciation of their game.
Appreciation, yeah, for sure. I totally see where you're coming from. Yeah. Going back to like your career, right? Was there ever a point where you kind of felt like giving up, or you wanted to just quit? And if so, what kind of kept you from jumping off the ledge?
Right. I can't say there was ever a point where I was like, I want to quit.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely had points in my life where I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is what is my quote unquote destiny, or this is what's for me. Like I broke my ankle my 11th grade year. So I lost a bunch of scholarships from it. I got surgery. I was out for like longer than I was supposed to be initially out for. And like the whole thing was, I don't know if they want me, or I don't know if, you know, God or whatever anybody believes in, like is saying, hey, this is it. But I never had that feeling of like, oh man, I gotta quit. Like,
right. But you handled you saw the adversity and just pushed you harder, probably, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, I was locked in a bed basically for like 5 months. So
yeah, I think it puts it in perspective, right? Something that you love so much was taken away from you.
Oh my gosh,
once you got back on that court, it was probably just like, oh my god, like.
Oh, I miss running lines, and I hated lines.
Yeah, for sure. Even stuff like that.
Yeah, it was a different thing, man. It's definitely a different appreciation. Like even, I guess, being done playing pro, like it was never a feeling to me like, oh man, I still got to keep doing this. Like I got what I wanted out of the game. I gave it everything I had in terms of.
You put everything into it, and so you left with your head held high, right?
Exactly. I've broken 9 bones, man. I've been rehabbing for like honestly 2 years of my life. So it was like I wasn't even supposed to play pro at that point. I had so many injuries, so it was a nice feat to accomplish and be okay with when it didn't, you know, come back in my favor.
That's dope, yeah. So you know, you graduate high school, then you go down to college. You go spend time at Cal University. So what was that your experience like at Cal, like, and how, you know, it's such a large school, a big NCAA school, Div 1 school, like that? What was it like coming from Canada, going down there?
It was amazing, man. I had amazing teammates when I was there. Amazing freshman class that came in. We're all pretty tight. So it was an amazing thing just to be on the team and honestly learn from some of the best coaches ever. Like the assistant coach who recruited me, he's the coach at Montana now, and he won Coach of the Year the last like 2 years there or something. Definitely. So, and they've won that division title over there. So I got to play under Mike Montgomery, and he was an NBA coach, and he made a Final Four with Stanford, and he was a basketball genius. So I got to learn a game that I definitely didn't learn over here, not because of the lack of coaching, but because of the lack of competition, you know.
Right.
Like,
because you're playing when now you're with the best of the best, like the top dogs. From
exactly. I couldn't do the stuff that worked when I was in high school by any means. I had to figure out how to basically pass the basketball again. It was a serious culture shock in terms of just things that I was used to having and you know, getting when I want to play weren't happening. There's people that were just as skilled, just as strong, better than me, and smarter than me. So it was a cool culture shock. It was definitely tough, but it was like, I loved Cal, man. It just was a tough situation with the playing for me. So
what's it called? I'm sure you like, you know, being here, you're the top dog, you know, getting the most minutes and stuff like that, playing all the time. You go down to Cal and you're playing with some of the best players in the nation that are in your age group, right? So that must have probably been like way, like you said, a huge culture shock because you probably never noticed there's this much talent out there and stuff like that, right? So it's definitely really humbling, probably really humbling experience for you too, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was humbling. It was more so, for me, I always felt like my skills were up to par and my athleticism was up to par, but knowing the game, man, knowing the nuances
part of it, right? That's probably the biggest part of it, right?
It was the biggest part for me. I came in and I was like a dog with big eyes that didn't know what to do. I'm like, I was messing up on plays all the time. Guys would get plays right away as soon as we draw it up, and it would take me reps to understand the flow and where to get your shots, where to not get your shots. Right. So it was something for me that was like, it was tough. It hurt. But it's like a depressing thing when you're not playing good and you're not with your family and you're not getting playing time and you don't feel confident in yourself anymore. So it was tough, but going through that, like, it made me such a better player that didn't have to rely on athleticism and stuff that kind of God blessed me with. It made me rely on stuff that I had to work hard to get.
Right? So. And I'm sure, like, you know, like you said, it was hard at first, but how did you, like, get through that and, like, you know, figure out ways to, you know, improve yourself like that and on a mental aspect of it as well? Right.
For me, man, like, I knew I worked hard, so that was never my issue. I'd shoot after practice, shoot before practice. After games, if I didn't play, I'd have a full workout after games.
Right.
So it was never a thing about effort. It was always a thing about learning where to put my effort.
Right.
You know, I played like a million miles a second, but that wasn't working. I was going too fast for my own good. I needed to slow down. So a lot of the time, man, when I worked out, I just made sure when I lost my confidence to go get that confidence back. So I'd go play at the rec center.
Right.
Just to be like, oh, like, you can still hoop. You're not how you're feeling right now.
Yeah, you're not a scrub. You actually know what you're doing, right?
So I would go and do that, man, and try and get my confidence up and work on other things, and honestly try and watch as much game tape as I could to see, okay, I'm making mistakes, but I see where I can get better. I see that it's something that I can work on.
That's dope. So then you leave Cal, you go transfer to Seattle U. So what was Seattle U like compared to Cal?
Oh, man, it was two different worlds.
Yeah.
Cal was 38,000 people. Seattle U was 7,000 people. Teachers knew my name. They knew what I looked like. At Cal, I had classes with 600 people that, you know, like, you could go, but if you didn't go, it wasn't, teachers wouldn't notice. You just had to make sure you did your work. So for a lot of the time for me at Cal, I did a lot of my stuff online.
Right.
Like, I'd go to class, but a lot of the time, all the lectures would be online, and I'd learn better, just me and my tutor. So it was a huge difference, man. The coaching style was way different too. Coach Dollar he was a beast. He was.
Yeah.
We would run, and he just made us tough. Like,
Yeah.
he made me not scared of anything as a man, to be honest. Like,
Really?
before I went there, I was scared to run long distance. With him, it was like, okay, you got to learn to enjoy it. I was scared of contact in terms of rebounding and all this stuff, and it was like, that's what I love about the game now. So he completely changed my mindset, changed the way I approach things, and it was awesome.
That's dope. So something like that, a coach like that can really change your mindset of the whole game and flip your whole mindset and change how you appreciate the game now too, right?
Sure. He won a national championship.
Right.
So he played for UCLA in '95.
Okay,
and
yeah.
They went to like 3 Final Fours or something. There were 2 Final Fours, and he just had a resume that was crazy. He could still really hoop. So when he'd show us a drill, it was like, oh, like this guy, yeah, he's different.
Yeah.
He had it in him already. So, you know, when he would talk about his certain stories, like him playing against Mike Bibby and all these guys that were top draft picks, it was like, oh, okay, like you know that this works. You've done it yourself.
Yeah, you paid more attention to it, right? You know, because he's been through those same battles that you've been through, right?
So it was. I mean, it was awesome, man. It was. But at the same time, I was always injured there, so that was a hard thing. I had I had stress fractures. I had avulsion fractures. I tore my groin. I had a bunch of injuries in those 2 years that just kind of, I think, hindered my progress individually, for sure. It probably made me better as a teammate, but individually, it definitely hurt my progress.
Yeah, man. Like I said, injuries are always like a part of sports, but I mean, like you said, if you learn something out of it, which you definitely probably did learn something from this about yourself personally and about your enjoyment of the game of basketball, you can't really complain at the end of the day, can you?
Oh, man. Everything happens for a reason. Exactly. I strongly believe in that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So speaking about your college experience, so I know here in Canada we have a much different college or youth sports athletic system or whatever. Is it true that college sports in the States are pretty much run like a professional sports team?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, it can't not be. Like, you got to think even for a coach, like coaches are making millions, right? And their job depends on how you perform. So the way they eat depends on the player who's playing.
Right.
Here, I mean, you have guys that could coach for 30 years and never win a championship. It matters more, and I think it's getting more competitive here, but there's also a lack of necessity to win.
Right.
Because it like the Canadian youth sports, it's more about building the overall athlete as a human being, in my eyes, when I watch, than it is building only an athlete that gets wins and makes money. Like,
right. So there's a philosophy difference between each side, right? That's sure. So that's why I think what the NCAA is, or in the States, is like the reason they produce a lot of athletes is because what you said, they produce athletes to win, to become winners, right? That's why they win gold medals in track or gymnastics, swimming, whatever, because they produce their athletes at such a young age.
And there's always somebody else that's wanting to take your spot.
Exactly. There's always that sense of competition.
And there's not a fear of your spot being taken as much here.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that.
Cal, they had Alan Crabb went to the NBA and Jorge Gutierrez went to the NBA. Justin Cobbs had summer league a stint and preseason stint. Richard Solomon had he played on OKC for a bit, and it's like these are all guys that went to the league, and then I have to host recruits that are going to the league too. So you know your spot's getting taken. It's not a secret. It's not, you know, if you don't bring it, you don't play. Exactly. So I think there's a lot more of an onus and a less of an apologetic mindset over there for how good you're allowed to be. Here, I think we limit sometimes guys that are good, saying they're arrogant or whatever. It's not. There, it's they work hard for what they get. So
exactly, and I think,
but I think it's just a difference with the business aspect of it, because it's a necessity to win, or else you don't produce. You don't get more money for your school if you don't make tournaments. your coaches don't go. If you don't get certain wins and you don't have a good system, players won't come. So it's a accumulation of everything. You have to have wins, which is the top of the house.
Exactly.
Everything else falls under it.
Mm-hmm. Like that, if you look at great programs like Duke, Carolina, Kentucky, they're winning consistently every year. They're getting the best players that consistently
always will.
Always, because they're always winning. They always have that great program and stuff like that, right? Definitely. And those kids know that if I don't bring it, that some other guy, some freshman coming in from Kentucky or whatever like that, is gonna take my spot, and Cal's gonna take him to the NBA, right? So definitely
same thing. Like even mid majors now. You look at places like Butler's. Butler's been good since they made the finals.
Exactly. Since
they're ranked every year.
Yeah.
They get top recruits now because players want to go to a winning culture. Players want to learn how to win to be the best player. That's what the game is. It's not about dribbling a basketball. It's about winning.
Winning. That's what it comes down to in sports, is winning. I think Herm Edwards, a football coach, said you play to win the game, right? That's the whole name of the game. You play to win.
I do struggle with that now as a coach, especially just I guess looking at basketball as an activity,
right? Rather
than we're playing to win. And it's okay if you don't win and you play to win. It's a tough battle though, man.
It is. It's a fine line that you gotta figure out how to play on each side. So you also played overseas, right? So what was that experience like, playing overseas and stuff like that, playing pro ball?
It was beautiful. I got to play in a country called Georgia, which is right by Russia.
Yeah.
And it's a small country, but it's a beautiful country, man. They all have their own language, so it's completely different.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. But it was a cool experience. I got to play there and meet some good teammates and meet some amazing people and see their culture and have Christmas there and New Year's and all this stuff. So that was amazing. And then I got to play in Iran, and Iran was the most beautiful country you could imagine. There's so much stuff on the news that people are scared of, and some Middle East and stuff, but it was completely different when I went.
Yeah.
I mean, I never felt safer. People were amazing there. It was the most hospitable people you could ever meet. So,
and I'm sure, growing up, you never thought you see all these different parts of the world that you got to see, and it's something that's crazy.
Oh, it's crazy, man. That's the one thing I have gotten from basketball. I've got to travel to 8 different countries.
That's cool.
Not 8 different countries like Mexico and stuff, but going to Europe, I've been to 6 different countries. I got to go to China. I got to, go all these places simply for a game, which was
crazy,
the coolest thing.
Yeah, that's definitely 100. So then you finish your playing career, and then you start coaching, so running your academy, right? So how did you kind of decide that you wanted to start running your own academy, get into coaching and development and stuff like that?
I always knew I wanted to get into coaching somewhat. I mean, my dad's been a coach my whole life, so kind of was innate in me. And I just always enjoyed that aspect of learning something and being able to hand it over to somebody else to help them learn. I loved working out with kids even when I was in college. I didn't have to work out with other guys that were top ranked picks and stuff like this. I totally loved working out with little kids and helping them out a little bit. So I knew it had to happen. I had a sociology degree, which meant you could do social work and be a teacher and all this stuff. And it was I knew it kind of translated for me, and it was a natural thing to just get into coaching, man. Or at least skill development. I don't know necessarily coaching. I don't coach teams, but
skill development. Being that teacher aspect of it, kind of thing. Yeah. So how do former coaches, teachers, or even your parents influence your style of teaching and coaching nowadays?
Oh man, I've had every type of coach. I've had coaches that are a little bit too lenient, and I have coaches that are probably a little bit too strict. So for me, it's just, it's nice to have all those experiences and be able to channel different coaches at different times, because I don't think you can always be the same coach. There's kids that I can definitely push, a little bit different than I would push another kid, because one kid may be better when he he has to be egged on and trash talked a little bit, and one kid may, cower when you trash talk him. So there's a difference between like bringing kids up and growing their confidence, and then kids that are too confident taking their confidence down a size and helping them figure out how to work hard. So I think all the experiences that I've got from coaches that don't speak the same language as me to coaches that are yelling right at you is something that I needed for me as a player, and I could see what I cowered from and what I didn't like as coaches and kind of implement that in my own stuff.
So yeah, you can take all those experiences and definitely put it in.
Absolutely.
You're kind of a mixture of everybody, I would think, right? Everybody you learn from, right?
Absolutely, man.
All your history with basketball and track, stuff like that. How is the skills that you learned in those sports translate to teaching people in other sports like baseball, softball, soccer, stuff like that?
Right. For me, I had a lot of great mentors from the track and field realm, especially my dad being a track coach and kind of that being my first real athletic experience before basketball, and doing it every summer and learning how to jump, learning how to run. It all just obviously translated well to basketball. And then seeing that translate, it made me realize how it could translate to other sports and kind of how everything, goes together. Whether that's from jumping in basketball to exploding out in soccer, it all kind of is interwoven in a different way, just with different angles and sometimes just different postures. So it was a cool thing to kind of get to see actually intertwine rather than just saying, "Oh, I'm a basketball player." Like, come let me help you with some skills and maybe get you somewhere. But instead, skills only get you so far, especially nowadays. Athletics and being a good athlete before being an actual specialist, I think, is super important. Yeah. Where that means, like when people always ask me, it was like, "Oh, are you a basketball player?" Like, I always thought of myself as an athlete who plays basketball. Rather, I could try and play anything if I had the right help to do it. But I knew that being an athlete first gave me that opportunity,
That's a really cool perspective. Like, you never thought of yourself as a basketball player. You thought of yourself as an athlete first. And I feel probably a lot of young athletes can stay boxed into that one sport, right? Where like, oh, I'm a basketball player. I'm a football player.
I think that's such a – I don't think that helps our generation so much. Like a lot of these kids play basketball year-round. Yes, they are better, but a lot of these kids are burnt out by the time they're 23. They're playing hundreds of games a year. Like, even look at somebody like LeBron. LeBron played football. Iverson played football. Kobe played soccer. Steve Nash played soccer. Dirk Nowitzki played tennis. Tim Duncan swam. Like, all these guys did other things that are absolute legends.
Yeah.
And it's a hard scenario when kids are like, I have to play all year round so I can get recruited. Yes and no. I didn't play basketball in the States till 10th grade.
Right.
I didn't play any summertime basketball until I was 16. So, and then as soon as I did, the opportunities came. But at the same time, I got those opportunities, a lot of them, because I had a background in being athletic before just being a basketball player that's one-dimensional.
And it keeps it in perspective, right? So, like, I know I played hockey growing up. A lot of kids, play hockey all year round and end up losing the love for the game, right?
Of course.
So, for me, like, I tried to play as much as I wasn't like a really good athlete, like whatever. I was whatever. I did more for the fun, but I tried to do everything because, you put some perspective what you really love, that you want to do that the most, but you also have to learn different things, right? So I'm sure, like, as for you with track and also basketball, like, you like to try different things, but also it helped you in, the sport that you were eventually the best at.
Translated.
Yeah.
Like, off-season training now is you're doing CrossFit for a lot of these athletes. A lot of these athletes are doing other sports during their off season. Like Carmelo did a lot of boxing during his off season, and boxing footwork is next to none. You're light on your feet. You know how to move. You can explode out of any position.
Yeah.
And Carmelo has some of the best footwork in the NBA. So It's definitely cross training. I feel like has always been something that a lot of people don't take advantage of because they think they're losing something by taking any time off.
Right. And you know, it's crazy. Like even the guys in the NBA, a lot of guys, or in the NFL. Sorry, the NFL draft was yesterday. I saw a bunch of clips of guys that got drafted in the first round that played basketball because of the footwork that you learn in basketball. You can translate to football, right? Which is crazy.
And that always translates. Yeah. Football players are always good at basketball because they can see little crevices.
Yeah.
Always, and they're not scared of contact. And I just mean so many sports play a massive, massive role in the intersection of how good people are at those sports.
Most definitely, most definitely. So when you're coaching, right? How or when you're in your time playing stuff like that, how important are just the fundamentals of the game, like the repetition stuff? Because I was watching a couple interviews and stuff like that, especially The Last Dance. You could definitely see some like a guy like Michael Jordan or like Kobe. They had the best fundamentals. Like they might have not been the most athletic or the most fast, but their fundamentals were absolutely flawless. Is that something that you stress towards like your people?
Absolutely, man. It's like a house. You could have a mansion, but with all the nicest things. But if your foundation is garbage, that house is going to collapse the first storm that hits. So
exactly,
you may be a flashy player, but if your fundamentals aren't there, you have nothing to stand on, you know? Like, it's like having a massive, strong haymaker punch. But if you don't have jabs to set up your haymaker, you're going to get knocked out first. So it's all about, for me, it's all about having the right fundamentals and then taking those fundamentals to the next level.
Like, I mean, related to boxing, when you look at a guy like Deontay Wilder, he has a huge
Absolutely.
Hand, but he got exposed by a guy like Tyson Fury who has such strong fundamentals in boxing, right?
Absolutely.
Right, so that's something that's definitely good. You know, fundamentals are definitely key. What was I gonna say? So you know how the time that we are in the world now with this whole COVID-19 situation, how are you helping out your students and stuff like that? What are you doing to keep them training and active and keeping their fundamentals good?
Right. So for us, we at the clinic we definitely do a lot of tutorial videos. So a lot of them have been without a hoop, dribbling workouts, stretching workouts. Pre-rehabilitation workouts, so strengthening things so you don't get injured. We have rehab videos. We've done jumping workouts to help you get your vertical up.
Right.
And then we're working on online courses where we can help kids kind of graduate onto the next level. So starting from the absolute basics all the way to super advanced, including athleticism, rehab, mindset, and basketball drills. So we're going to start running one-on-one Zoom calls as well, just for if kids want to, get it in. And, I'm always accessible on Instagram if anybody has questions, just in terms of anything. You don't have to be somebody that trains with me or anything. If you have questions, especially during this time, it's about getting better. It's about making the culture better. So
staying together, sticking together. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. The last question before we end the interview off, it's probably the easiest question to answer, but how rewarding is your job being like a coach right now? How rewarding is it?
Man, I love it. I love when kids are struggling at the beginning and you have your days of crying, and then by the end of it, it's like kids enjoy the stuff they hated. So whether that's rebounding drills and getting strong and making layups to, at the end of it, being able to put the ball behind their back, it doesn't matter. For me, I love watching the growth and watching kids actually look forward to not just showing up and having fun at the gym, but showing up and wanting to get better. It's crazy, man. Like, you see a lot of parents too, and what they do for their kids. It's cool to see, the amount of family that you get to see when you have a job like mine.
Definitely, man. Like, I definitely I can see the smile on your face when you're talking about it. Like, it definitely brings a lot of pride to you seeing like kids that hate, like you said, crying or don't want to come and play basketball or whatever, and then being able to teach them something and they end up falling in love with it. Right? That's something that I can only imagine.
Big time. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So I want to thank you so much, Emerson, for coming on.
I really
appreciate it, man. What I'll do is on the link for the video, I'll put your Instagram and your website in there, so everybody that can look it up. The clinic, Emerson, and all their crew doing a whole bunch of stuff. So once again, Emerson, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it.
All right, thanks.